All right, can you see the screen, students? Please switch on your videos. So I believe in the previous class, we had completed the human male reproductive system, right? We discussed about the various glands and accessory ducts and everything. Today, we will begin with the female reproductive system. Now, the female reproductive system, it contains again a primary sex organ, that is a pair of ovaries. So inside the ovaries only, the ova, that is the egg, which is the female gamete, that will be male. Apart from that, there is the presence of a pair of the oviducts, which is also called as the fallopian tube. Furthermore, there is the uterus, the cervix, the vagina, along with the external genitalia that is found in the female's reproductive system. Now, the human female reproductive system is also found in the pelvic area, just like how the human male reproductive system is. And apart from all of these things that we just talked about, the female's reproductive system also contains a pair of mammary glands that are functional, meaning these are the ones that are responsible for the formation and the secretion of milk, thereby to support the young one after it has been born. Now, all these structures, they are integrated, they are sort of connected all together. They function as a whole to support the processes like ovulation, to support fertilization, pregnancy, birth, childcare. All of these processes are supported by the integration of all of these different organs that we just saw. Now, the primary sex organs of the female is the ovaries. Now, the ovaries, they, like I told you, they are responsible for the formation of the female gamete. So, it produces the ovum, which is the female gamete. Apart from that, it also produces the steroid hormones that are the ovarian hormones. Steroid means those hormones that are derived from cholesterol in the body. Okay, they are the fat derivative hormones. Now, the ovaries, they are located in the lower side of the abdomen on each side. The length of the ovary is 2 to 4 centimeters. And they are, it's not that they are just hanging there in the body. They are attached to the wall of the pelvis and the uterus by specialized muscles called as ligaments. And the ovary is covered by a thin epithelium, which is called as basically the ovarian epithelium is there. And inside the ovary, there is the ovarian stroma. Stroma is a space enclosed by the wall of the ovary. Now, this stroma is divided into two zones or two parts. One is the peripheral portion and one is the central portion. So the peripheral portion, you see the yellow part in this picture, the yellow parts, those yellow parts are basically the cortex area, which is peripheral in position, the cortex. Whereas the inside, like in the middle, in the central area, you see the pink colored portion, which is the medulla. So cortex and medulla are the two parts that are there in the ovary. This is like the ultrastructure of the ovary, wherein you see the cortex and the medulla. Now, furthermore, after the ovary, the next part of the female's reproductive system is the oviduct, which is also called as the fallopian tube. Now, why is it there? It's there for the transportation of the female gamete to where it is required to be during fertilization. So when we talk about the oviduct, okay, it is the fallopian tube, the uterus, and the vagina. These three things are considered as the accessory ducts of the female. Now you see, this is the picture of the female's reproductive system, wherein you see this part is the ovary, the primary sex organ. Now connected to this particular part, there is the fallopian tube, which is further divided into three parts. What are the three parts? infundibulum, ampulla, and isthmus. Okay, so the fallopian tube has three parts present in it. That is infundibulum, ampulla, and isthmus. Now, furthermore, you see that how in front of the infundibulum there are these finger-like projections. These are what we call as fimbriae. So, meaning as soon as the ovary releases the ovum, like the fimbriae portion of the infundibulum, it sort of catches the ovum to send it to the fallopian tube. So now talking about the fallopian tube, which is also called as oviduct. So it is 10 to 12 centimeters in length and it extends from the periphery of the ovary to the uterus, meaning the peripheral portion, peripheral cortex portion up until the uterus. Now, when we talk about the fallopian tube, so it is made up of three parts: infundibulum, ampulla, and there is isthmus. So when we talk about the infundibulum portion, so this is the part which is very close to the ovary and it is sort of funnel shaped. Okay, so basically the shape of the infundibulum is sort of funnel-like and the edges of the infundibulum, it contains finger-like projection which we call as fimbriae. Now, as I told you, it is responsible for the collection of the ovum as the ovary releases the ovum. Okay, and this release of ovum is called as ovulation. Then from the infundibulum comes the next part, that is ampulla. Okay, it is sort of wider as compared to the infundibulum. It is wider. It comes after infundibulum. And the last part of the fallopian tube is called as the isthmus. It is narrow and it directly connects with the uterus. Now, if you see in this picture, egg will be released over here. It will be, collected by the fimbriae. Then it will go into the wider portion that is the ampulla. Then to the narrower portion that is the isthmus, which will ultimately open inside the uterus. Now, when we talk about this uterus, so it is an inverted pear shape. Like pear is normally this shape. But when we talk about the uterus, it is described as inverted pear-shaped structure. Okay, it is inverted pear-shaped structure. It is also called as the womb. So uterus, it is also called as the womb. It is an inverted pear-shaped structure. And in every individual, there is usually, in normal case scenario, there is the presence of only one uterus. Now again, uterus is also not hanging in the body. It is attached to the wall of the pelvis by again the tissues called as ligament. Now uterus is going to open into the vagina, which is the final opening of the female's reproductive tract via the cervix. So first the uterus will open into the cervix, which will open into the vagina. Now the cavity of the cervix is called as cervical canal. And this cervical canal, along with the vaginal passage, is called as the birth canal. And this is very important to remember because many a times a lot of questions get asked from this. That is the cervical canal along with vagina forms the birth canal. Is it clear? Now there are, inside the uterus, there are three walls present: endometrium, myometrium, and perimetrium. So when we talk about endometrium, so it is the innermost wall, myometrium is the middle wall, and then there is the perimetrium, which is the outermost wall of the uterus. Okay. Discussing about the walls of the uterus now. Endometrium is the innermost epithelial layer which basically lines the uterine cavity. Lining means that a layer is present towards the inner side of the organ, any organ. So here it is lining the uterine cavity and this endometrium only is undergoing a lot of cyclical change every month. Okay, during the menstrual cycle. This is the endometrium. After that, there comes the myometrium, which is the middle layer. So this layer is the one which is, basically a thick middle layer of smooth muscles. Okay, smooth muscles are those muscles which are not under our control, right? We cannot regulate them. That is why this particular uterine layer undergoes extremely strong contraction during the childbirth, and it is not in the control of any female. Then comes the perimetrium, which is the external thin membranous layer, which is responsible for the protection of the uterus. Clear? Now, just like how we talked about the external genitalia of the males, that was the penis. Now we're going to talk about the external genitalia of the female. So when we talk about the external genitalia of the female, the first part is the mons pubis, which is basically that part of the pelvic area where the pubic hair is present. That part is called as the mons pubis. It is a cushion-like structure which is made up of fatty tissues, which is covered by skin and dense pubic hair. After that, there comes labia majora. Now, this one is the basically continuing from the mons pubis. There is the fold of fleshy tissues, okay, which protects the vaginal opening. So that is like the bigger fold is the labia majora. Below it is the you can say the tinier version of it. It is called as the labia minor, smaller than the labia majora, and it is present under the labia majora. Then there is hymen. When we talk about hymen, it is a partial opening present on top of the vagina. Okay, it's like a partial covering. For example, if this is the vaginal passage, so it is sort of partially covered by this structure called as the hymen. Now, the absence of hymen can be the indication that a female has had sexual intercourse, but not necessarily it is, you can say a fixed thing. Many a times this hymen can break down whilst doing a lot of strenuous or physical exercises also, like horse riding, a lot of gym and stuff. Understood? Then under the this thing, you can say external genitalia, there comes the clitoris also, which is a tiny finger-like projection at the upper junction of the two labia minora, and it is right above the urethral opening. So this is variously the external genitalia, the 5 parts or 5 external genitalia of human female. Then what happens is that the particular endometrial lining or the uterine lining, it starts to undergoes a cyclic change every single month. So during the ovulation time, meaning when the the ova is going to be released. So during that time, the endometrial lining will become very, very thick. It will become very, you can say, richly supplied with blood vessels. Why? Because it is preparing itself for pregnancy. Understood? Meaning the egg is released. Now the body is imagining that the egg will be released and it will be fertilized and a zygote will be formed. And this zygote will come and get inside the uterus, and then it will develop into a baby. So for that, the endometrial layer, you can say it basically starts to get thickened and everything. Understood? So at the time of puberty, one more thing that starts to happen, other than the menstrual cycle begins, during the time of puberty, mammary gland starts developing. Why? Because during the puberty, estrogen and progesterone hormones, they are released into the body, right? And under the influence of these hormones, the mammary glands start developing. Now, first of all, the breast tissue enlarges, right? You might have noticed, like while you were, before the time you had your first periods, before that, And after that, there are a lot of changes that do occur in the body, right? So those changes are the changes that happen under the influence of the female hormones. So inside the mammary gland, there is the presence of glandular tissue, which will be responsible for the formation of milk and later on secretion of milk after the birth of the baby. Mammary gland is present in both males and females, but the thing is that it's only functional in the females. Now, the glandular tissue is present in both the breasts and it is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes. Okay, it is divided into lobes. Inside the lobe, there is the presence of alveoli. The formation of milk, the secretion of milk, it starts and takes place in the alveoli itself. So the milk from the alveoli passes to the mammary tubules. Several mammary tubules join together to make a bigger, or you can say wider pathway called as the mammary duct. Same way, many mammary ducts, they join to form the mammary ampulla. And lastly, the mammary ampulla is connected to the lactiferous duct. This is the part which is present in the nipple area, and this is from where the milk is ultimately sucked out. So this is basically explaining to you the pathway or the passage of how the particular formation of milk and then ejection of milk takes place. Any doubts? No doubts. Okay. All right. So you people have started writing the notes of this chapter. Mm. Okay, you can start writing this chapter. So we, up until now, we have seen the human male reproductive system, like the parts and everything, their functions. We have seen the human female reproductive system. So first thing is completed. Now the next thing that we will be moving on towards is the gametogenesis, which is basically the formation of gametes. So it is going to be different for male and different for female, obviously. Understood? So now you people note down till here, then we'll move forward.
Mm. Done, ma'am. Done. Done. Done.
Done, students?
No, ma'am.
Okay, any doubts up until now? Anything you want to ask me?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Done, students? Done till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay.
Done.